very much for inviting me here today. My name is Officer Danielle Froud. I've been an officer for 20 years. So we're going to be talking about several topics today, specifically crime prevention. And here is the agenda. So we're going to be talking a little bit about our team, identity theft, what is an emergency scam, some crime prevention, and we're going to talk about what York Regional Police offers if you're looking for more information, and some resources. So this is the senior safety team. A lot of the public is not aware, but we've had a unit for several years. As you can see, I'm on the left-hand side. In the middle, that is Chantel Bennett. That is our in-house social worker. And then on the right, that is my partner, Erin Brown. She's the other officer. So what we do in our office is that we liaise with elder abuse investigators in all of our districts. So what happens is that if a uniform officer responds to a call for service at your home or business and does a police report, if it involves a senior and requires further investigation, it should be assigned to an elder abuse investigator. And often the elder abuse investigator will reach out to our team and ask us to help out further with resources. We also work very closely with Victim Services of York Region. If you are a victim of a crime in York Region, you will for sure be getting a phone call from them and seeing if there's anything that you would need help with. And often they will call us or email our team asking us to touch base with the senior to give more assistance. Also, we have our Vulnerable Person Registry and Project Lifesaver programs. Chantal Bennett, the social worker, runs those two programs. Though the Vulnerable Person Registry is geared towards anybody who's vulnerable in our community, and whether that's a medical condition that they have, and their loved ones fills out an application and provides a photo of the vulnerable person, and it gets uploaded to our computer system. So all officers in the region of York would have quick access to information, and that would be important if we responded to the person's home and we needed to be aware of anything pertinent to that person. Project Lifesaver is for somebody who is known to wander in the community, and that could be somebody who is autistic, or it could be also somebody who has dementia or Alzheimer's, and perhaps they wander in the community, and when they are speaking to members of the public, they're not able to communicate where they live, what their name is. So in that instance, we do have a device where they would wear it around their wrist. And if they do go missing, their loved ones report that they're missing right away to the police. And then we will send officers who are specially trained in tracking through radio frequency, the radio frequency on their bracelet that they're wearing. We would then try to assist and track the person. And also in our office, we do a lot of phone consultations. So we have members of the public calling our office asking for assistance. We also consult with our social workers with the region of York, hospital social workers, the Alzheimer's Society chats. The other part of our role is we do online presentations like today. We also do in-person presentations. And we also do home visits. So occasionally, if a senior lives alone in the community and perhaps maybe a family member or a neighbor calls regarding concerns they have for the senior, then what would happen is that we would speak with the person, and myself and the social worker would go out and we would do a home visit. We're lucky that we do have a social worker on staff that is aware of what is out there in the community. And Chantal, she can actually do the referrals for the senior if they're unable to do it. And then we're also a part of a lot of community events. We get invited to healthy aging events out in the community. We do, in June, we have an event where we do World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So last year we went to several locations in the region and set up a table and spoke about World Elder Abuse. That's just some of the events that we do. Okay, so we're going to go right into one of the topics that you asked me to speak about. So identity theft, what is it? So criminals use your innocent person's names, documents to obtain credit, goods, and services. So I'll give you a little bit more of a background with that. So someone stealing your identity in which someone pretends to be someone else by assuming the person's identity, typically in order to access or obtain a credit card or other benefits in that person's name. The victim of the identity theft, meaning the person whose identity has been assumed by the identity thief, can suffer adverse consequences if they are held accountable for the perpetrator's actions. Identity theft occurs when someone uses your personal identifying information like your name, social insurance number, credit card number without your permission to commit fraud or other crimes. So how does your identity get stolen? So some common occurrences is dumpster diving, which means someone going through your mail and stealing your documents, or someone going to the mailbox and taking things out of the mailbox with your name and your information on it. Also database breaches or phishing attempts. So we're gonna watch a video later on about what phishing means when it comes to getting your identity or personal information being stolen. So we'll get into that later. So how do you protect yourself from identity theft? Well, you need to shred your personal and financial documents. So for instance, anytime I get a bill in the mail, what I do is I rip off my personal information, I put it in a bag, and then I put the remainder in my recycling. I do that for all my financial documents, just in case a bad guy goes through my mail or some of my information is put out there. Be aware of unsolicited calls, mails, text messages, or emails asking for your personal information. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but anytime anybody calls us or emails or text messages us, we have to realize that these people are strangers to us, and they could be a scammer looking for information. So we should never be providing our credit card number, our social insurance number, or anything like that to somebody we do not know, and as well as anybody that is perhaps calling us, because again, we don't know if it's a bad guy or bad girl calling us asking for that information so that they can use our credit card or information. So check your mail on a regular basis to limit mail theft. So we should be checking our mail, at least once a week, making sure it's not piling up. Notify Canada Post and any other service providers if you are moving. If you don't do that, then what could happen is that the person who has moved into your old address is going to be getting all of your bills and any of your information on your letters or anything like that. And then you have to also make sure your credit card and bank statements are accurate. You should really be checking, those definitely monthly, but often you should be checking it perhaps every week just to make sure that all of the statements are accurate. And if you notice any discrepancies, that's when you're going to go and call the bank or the credit card company to find out what is going on with your account. So emergency scams, they're on the rise. One of the emergency scams that is affecting seniors is the grandparent scam, which means emergency scam, okay? So did a family member recently call you because you were arrested? So that's typically what happens is someone calls you on the phone. They can be saying they're your granddaughter, grandson, and they're very upset on the telephone. You might not initially recognize their voice, but because they're so upset that you really are not paying attention, they will say to you that they were arrested for impaired driving, or someone in their car was arrested for drugs, or they were involved in a car accident. Typically what they'll do is they'll say to you, you know what, can you please talk to my lawyer, or could you please talk to the police officer? And then they go and ask you to speak to somebody on another person on the phone. Then you speak with who you believe is the lawyer or the police officer. And what they tell you is that your granddaughter or grandson is going to be going to court, and in order for them to be released from jail is that they need to have bail money. So they'll ask you to go to your bank, withdraw a large amount of money, and then they will ask you to put the money into an envelope. What then they will do is then say to you, when you do have the money, call this number. And what happens is that you make an arrangements for someone to come to the home. They usually will say to you, well, we want to make sure you're giving the money to the right person, and let's come up with a code word together so that we know that you're giving the money to somebody else. And the code word could be as simple as our code word is the color yellow. And you feel confident as the senior that, okay, I'm going to be giving the money to the correct authority, because they're going to ask me for my code word, and I'm going to ask them what the code word is, and they're going to tell me what it is. What they'll also do is they'll say to you, well, if the bank is asking you why you need such a large amount of cash out, just tell them that, you know, you're doing renovations at your home and you need the cash. So I always say that that seems a little bit strange that someone, again, you don't know has called you on the phone and they're asking you to lie to the bank. So I think that's a little bit of an alarm bell. They will also tell you that there's been a gag order in place with the investigation, which means that you're not allowed to discuss the case with anybody. You can't talk to anybody about it because there's a gag order. And since there's a gag order, if you do, you could potentially be charged with a criminal offense, and they put that on you, and you're now worried that if you tell anybody about this case that you're going to be in trouble. Once the person arrives at your home, we have noticed in the police reports, especially during COVID times, the person showing up at your home is wearing a mask. And, you know, the excuse for that would be, well, it's COVID. Maybe I have a cold. I don't want to give you any germs. And the other thing that we've noticed is that the person who comes to your home is not driving up to your home. And the reason for those two things that I just mentioned is that if someone's wearing a mask over, you know, their nose and mouth, it's really difficult for you to say, well, this is the description of what the person looks like, because generally half their face is covered, and often maybe they'll wear a ball cap. So you really can't say to the officer when you make a police report, well, they had red hair. Well, you know, you won't be able to tell because they're potentially wearing a ball cap, and you won't be able to describe their facial features. Again, with the car, they're not arriving and driving right up to your driveway. So they're hoping that, you know, because they're doing that, is that you're not going to be able to capture any of the descriptions of the vehicle. So since you don't see their car, you don't know what type of car they're driving. And as well, you're not able to say what the license plate of the car is. So that's generally what happens. The cash is handed over. And typically what happens is that they will call you later on and tell you there's been a change in the investigation. And either during the police investigation, they did a search warrant in the vehicle and they ended up finding a firearm. That's just one example. And they will say to you, your grandson or granddaughter, the stakes have risen and there's further charges being laid now. And lo and behold, you need to get more money out for the person to be released from jail. And of course, because this is your grandchild, you know, you want to help them as much as you can. And you're going to want to get them out of jail as quickly as possible. So then you go back to the bank and withdraw money. This type of scam will continue to go on and go on and go on as much as you're willing to get money out. I always suggest to everybody when I do presentations is that anytime anybody phones you or emails you or texts you, is your job is to verify the information. So we're not trusting somebody on the phone that says, I'm the police, or I'm your grandson, granddaughter, give me money. We're going to go and call the phone number of who our granddaughter is, who our grandson is. If we can't get a hold of them, we're going to call our son or daughter. If we can't get a hold of them, then we're going to do nothing. We're not going to go to the bank. Nothing at court happens that quickly that you need to go to the bank to do that withdrawal. So we're going to continue to make those phone calls, trying to get in touch with our family members. And then if you're really still not sure, I would suggest that you call the police, and then you'll speak to an officer.